Hamas has been working on the most dangerous thing of all. It seems they finally perfected something the IDF has tried to stop them from doing a long time ago. Gun duplication. Infinite gun glitch, where they can get as many guns as possible. Can somebody tell me anything about this guy? Have you seen this guy? This Michael Rappaport? Who is this guy? Who the heck is this Michael Rappaport guy? I've been seeing people post him and talk about him, and he's been having some really wacky takes, but I don't really know much about him at all. He's Jersey's goat? Well, seeing is that, wait, which goat? Like Satan? Beelzebub? Is that the type of goat that we're talking about right now? Because right now the caption to this video is not, it does not seem good. If 10 black people from America were taken hostage by Gaza, well, taken hostage in Gaza by Hamas, the entire world would be on the same page, period. Oh yeah, he's the Jersey Devil. That starts to make more sense. Yo, what's a deranged take we got? Well, let's see his deranged take. Let's see what's going on.
Yo, if 20 American tourists, 20 American tourists, forget the 1,200 people that were murdered, slaughtered, civilians. If 20 American civilians.
Did he have like a brain freeze there? What was going on? He kind of, he lost the plot there for a second. You okay, buddy? Have you tried turning it off and back on again? 20 American. Wait, I kind of want to see that again. Oh no, I somehow went back into the middle of the pause. Yeah, he was reloading. You think he's so old his brain's still on dial-up?
If 20 American civilians, all African American, all black.
No, why just stop there? Black, trans, disabled, immigrant, woman, non-binary woman specifically as well. Poor, you gotta throw that one in there. Illiterate, gotta make sure you throw that one in there. Neurodivergent and a minor. just you gotta build them. You just gotta build all of them as much as you can. There you go. Really get the left thinking on this one.
All ages were taken hostage, and 10 of them were murdered and raped. And there was 10 surviving American tourist hostages that were all black.
And trans.
There's not one motherfucker in this country that would be talking about ceasefire. There's not one person. It would be bring the fucking hostages back.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would say ceasefire, mostly because it seems like a lot of there's a big if you just level the entire place, then you might not get the hostages back because they'll be trapped under 10 tons of rubble. Like, just, I don't know, just level the entire, there's already reports of, I mean, there are already reports right now of Israel killing their own hostages. There are marches in Israel right now about Netanyahu's disregard for the hostages, actually. I don't know, this talking point about like hostages seems something that, I don't know, people who want to claim that Israel should level the entirety of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank are like harping on that much. It seems like Netanyahu really doesn't care that much, if I'm going to be honest, seeing as there's still protests of him disregarding the hostages and leveling the entire place. And some of those people may not come back specifically because they were killed by the IDF. Sounds like some Jersey talk. It is some Jersey talk, unfortunately. You should stop firing and negotiate to get the hostages back. Yeah.
And they better be alive. They better be pristine.
Not pristine.
There wouldn't be no ceasefire. There would be no round. Can you imagine?
On those 10 surviving American blacks, there bet not be a single coil touched on their nappy little heads. Isn't that right, Mr. Rappaport?
College students ripping down posters of 10 black people from America.
Not the blacks.
If they were taken hostage and 10 others were raped and murdered, nobody would be saying shit. The African American community would be demanding they came back. White people, black people, Jewish people would be demanding they come back. There wouldn't be a discussion of a ceasefire.
Bro, you can demand they come back, but also call for a ceasefire. Just don't blow up the hostages, bro. I don't know. This doesn't seem. These two positions aren't incongruent. Apologizing on behalf of Jerseyans. I appreciate that. You all aren't all bad. A lot of you are, but not all of you. Most of you, but not all of you. Maybe even the majority, but not all of you. Close to all of you, but not all of you. You know? Maybe like 99 out of 100, but not all.
That's a fact. Nobody can tell me shit that is not a fucking fact. Forget the 1,200 other people that were murdered. I'm talking about just 10. I don't compare tragedies, 9/11 versus the Oklahoma City bombing versus this, that, and the third. If it was just 10 African American people, they would be demanding, everybody would be demanding, get them back, get them back, get them back. The word ceasefire wouldn't be in the vernacular. It'd be like, ravage the fucking place until they come back, and they
ravage the place. Okay. All right. Listen, you can just tell us that you want to turn Gaza into a parking lot. You know, we're not devoid of those talking points. A lot of people keep saying shit like that. So, like one of the largest Jewish content creators on the platform is saying that while Elon Musk is sitting here shitting on the Palestinian activists, saying that everybody in Gaza needs to be killed. But okay. All right, buddy. Why you bring black people into this? There are black people in Israeli jail, black women there who are being systematically sterilized. Also, if Hamas takes 200 black people as hostages, their government will negotiate and not destroy 200,000 homes and kill 11,000 people. Blah, blah, blah. I said what I said, and I said facts. You can flip it however you want. Is this guy a child? Is this man an actual child? Are we talking to a baby? Yeah, you really seem concerned about the welfare of black people. Yeah, truly. He's so concerned. Kevin Slims, thank you so much for the $5. If what happened to 10 Jewish Americans, if that happened to 10 Jewish Americans, all Americans would be screaming, bring them back. So what's his point? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, dude. Okay, I don't think anybody is saying don't bring the hostages back. Have you seen any takes saying that the hostages shouldn't come back? I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before in my life. I think he's just mad that people aren't prioritizing killing 11,000 Gazans over a couple hundred people who are taken as hostages, and with the goal of trying to destroy Hamas, which we all know is never going to happen. We all understand this, right? One thing that you'll never see a lot of like weirdo Zionist posters say or understand is the fact that Israel literally cannot win the war that they have their hands on right now. It's not possible. They can't do it, right? And technically, by some regards, Hamas is actually winning the war. I'm not saying that because I want Hamas to win. I actually don't. But they are kind of, when it comes to just strategic and military goals, Hamas is kind of running circles around the Israelis at the moment. Because Hamas's goal was for one, to destabilize the situation going on at the moment. Israel has been spending the last couple decades negotiating land and resource treaties with neighbors in the area without the Palestinian Authority or like any other Palestinian representative in the room. So they have no representation, no money, no way out of the situation that they're in. And a lot of those other countries have been working to have normalization treaties and talks and in situations with Israel. So they wanted to shake that up to stop that from happening. And it seems, and that worked. Like Saudi Arabia, they pulled out of their talks. Other countries, I forget every country in the area that had talks going on specifically that halted them when this kicked off. But a lot of them, they stopped talks. Normalization has backed off to some degree. People are criticizing Israel again now. The slow, non theatrical suffering of the Palestinian people that a lot of people are just perfectly fine with ignoring is no longer here, and now the fast, brutal death of Palestinians is here again, which is really easy to criticize and look at and understand. And so that was another big thing that they wanted to do: discredit Israel, destabilize Israel's relationship with would-be allies or like relationship partners. It just seems to be working. They've killed 11,000 people. I'm going to tell you, they have not killed 11,000 Hamas operatives. Maybe a couple thousand, possibly even a couple hundred. Seeing as they're willing to bomb refugee camps for one guy, I don't really think that these supposed targeted surgical strikes are as targeted or surgical as they would try to make you believe that they are. And on top of that fact, when it came to, I didn't look at everything when it came to the Al-Shifa hospital raid, but one thing that I saw that was super interesting was that Israel has even lost the BBC. The BBC is one of Israel's biggest friends in the West when it comes to media organizations and propagandistic talking heads. And they even lost these guys. Take a look at this.
Israel described the Al-Shifa hospital as the main headquarters for Hamas's terrorist activity.
Now that's true. They said number one place where Hamas is conducting all of their evil doings. Number one place, period. They've got a massive series of tunnels. It was like the Saddam Hussein type thing where they have a massive cartoonish labyrinth under the floorboards, and they're crawling under there like ants, and they have hostage grounds and all this type of like wild shit everywhere, right? But it just didn't turn out to be so. Even Biden came out to co-sign this idea, like he does everything when it comes to Israel.
Can you detail for us what kind of evidence do you have seen that Hamas has a command center under Al-Shifa hospital?
Okay, so if you didn't hear that, basically she asked, what evidence do you have that Hamas has a command center under Al-Shifa hospital? That's what she asked.
No, I can't tell you. I won't tell you.
I won't. It was revealed to me in a dream. I won't. Sleeping Joe has the information that Hamas's headquarters is under a hospital. It was revealed to him in a dream, and he cannot tell you. He will not tell you. You don't need to know about it, okay?
You feel absolutely confident based on what you know that is the truth?
Yes.
And Mr. President, after today, would you feel refer to President Xi as a dictator, the term that you use?
I won't tell you. I can't tell you. That's it. That's all he has to say. I can't tell you. Anyways, this is what the BBC found out.
This IDF animation posted in late October claims to represent a Hamas tunnel system underneath the hospital.
I'm not lying to you. When we didn't talk about this. I don't think we talked about this on stream. But when I saw this, originally I laughed. He laughed. I looked at the IDF image of the Hamas ant farm, and honestly, I couldn't do anything besides simply laugh. Like, this is incredible. How many times do we have? Remember what was it? Was because we're gonna be talking about Osama bin Laden today. Did they say that Osama bin Laden was hidden in a massive mountain fortress that had like training rooms and a gym and like terrorism training courses and shit like that? Or was that Saddam Hussein again? He was like held up in a mountain like a fucking supervillain. Like with the base suspended over an active volcano. Like some crazy stuff like that. We're doing an exact repeat. They're just running it again. It's always the rape training centers. You really do hate to see that, don't you? We do need to stop that. Evil genius. Yeah, like the evil genius making the anti-Israelinator under the Al-Shifa hospital in their ant farm at headquarters, rubbing their hands together maniacally.
But having been inside Al-Shifa since early Wednesday, Israel's yet to produce evidence of the tunnels. It has allowed the BBC and Fox News to film at the hospital, though only locations of Israel's choice.
This is what they found.
Israel also released its own 7-minute video, which BBC Verify has analysed. A watch visible in that video suggests it was filmed a few hours before the BBC arrived. And this IDF video was posted, then deleted, then reposted, this time without a section referring to an Israeli soldier who'd been held hostage.
I don't know when this was used the last time.
Also in the video, we see a room with an MRI machine.
So they said there was a hostage, but then they cut the part where they would talk about a hostage. And then they said it was not an edited video, but it was very clearly an edited video. We'll take a look at that.
If you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you will be able to see is military equipment.
The BBC was shown the same room. And what we see in the two videos doesn't precisely match. For example, there's one gun in the IDF video, two by the time of the BBC footage.
No! Hamas has been working on the most dangerous thing of all. It seems they finally perfected something the IDF has tried to stop them from doing a long time ago. Gun duplication. They've finally perfected their gun infinite gun glitch where they can get as many guns as possible. That really does suck. What will they do now?
Israel has told BBC Verify this is because more weaponry and terrorist assets were discovered throughout the day.
They're just shifting the place around.
AK-47.
Israel also says its video is a single shot with no edits. But this appears to be an edit.
Yep, that looks like an edit all right to me. As somebody who's been an editor before, that definitely does look like an edit.
For that edit, nor how significant it is. The IDF, though, says suggestions it's manipulating the media are incorrect. The IDF video also shows military equipment in other locations, though we can't verify how it came to be there. And what we see in this IDF video doesn't equate to Israel's description of Al-Shifa as an operational command center for Hamas. The US is using a different phrase, saying Al-Shifa was used as a command and control node. That implies a much smaller facility. Israel is adamant this hospital was a command center, but for now, at least, it's either not found supporting evidence or it's not sharing it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Or it does not exist. It's one of the, it's three of those things that very possibly could be true. It does not, they've not found it, they're not sharing it, or it does not exist. Their guns can self-replicate. Wild, isn't it? What a bunch of liars. It's so wild how they just simply, and the craziest thing about it is that I don't think Israel even needs to lie about this, right? The terrorist attack that happened is real, and we all know that. They don't have to lie about anything. They could have just had a normal human being response to what's going on right now, and they could have easily been able to completely win this war of ideas and war of propaganda and war of words going on as like alongside the actual war that's being waged inside of Gaza. They could have just been normal about it, and honestly, I don't think many people would be able to say anything about it outside of the just occupational things going on. But the fact that they want to level the place, like so many government officials coming out, people talking about nuking Gaza, wiping Gaza off the face of the earth, reoccupying Gaza completely, displacing them, having dreams and aspirations of completely displacing all of Gazans away from the border and pushing them into pushing them into Egypt's peninsula. All these types of things have just led them lose credibility and lose favor time and time again. Did they already go into the MRI room? They were everywhere inside of the hospital. There are also claims that, and these are just claims, I don't know how verified this is specifically. There are claims from the people at the hospital. One of the people there said we're facing extermination, and another person said specifically that there are about 50 people in intensive care and all of them died due to Israel's incursion onto the hospital, and no tunnels were really found. It would have been less bad if they just wanted to say, yeah, we wanted to bomb the hospital. If they just decided not to bomb like the way that they're doing, I don't think they, like a lot of people would have as much ground, anywhere near as much ground to stand on. And the thing is, like, we talked about this a little bit earlier, operational goals, like how Hamas is kind of winning when it comes to their operational goals. Israel has set operational goals that just cannot happen. It's not possible for it to happen unless they do something so brazen and so evil that I'm not sure how they're necessarily going to be able to recover from it in an age that's so digital. I think they would have been able to like wipe Gaza off the face of the earth if we were in like 1950. If we were in 1950, then I don't think anybody would care. 1970, I don't think anybody would care. I don't think anybody would care if that's what it's like back in the day. But now when people are on the ground and are able to just pick up their phone, record it, and upload it to the internet, like instantly, it's very hard for them to be able to get away with this. And they just can't get rid of Hamas. It's not possible. It's just not possible. Same way that we couldn't get rid of other terrorist organizations and ideologies when we just carpet bombed the Middle East for decades. It's just not possible to be able to get rid of these ideas like this. There's a reason why pulling out of Afghanistan was so bad after being there for 20 years. It's not possible. It's not possible. Lost their window for full execution. It is true. Like, unfortunately for Netanyahu, they lost their window for full execution. And the big problem is, like, him and his administration and the Israeli governments pushing for these terrorist cells to be propelled to greatness inside of Gaza has backfired completely when they are not real leaders outside of being able to weaponize the Holocaust and weaponize other wars Israel has been in the past to be able to stoke fear inside of the Israeli populace to remain in power. Outside of that, like, they're not able to protect their people at all. They're not able to bring any of the hostages home. They're not able to destroy Hamas. Like, what are they able to do besides make more suffering for Israelis? And the answer is not much. And with that being said, I mean, it's getting bad, okay? There's another clip from the video. Things are getting pretty bad for them. It's getting a little desperate. Look how desperate they are. Look at this. This is crazy.
To look at this room. People are putting curtains with nothing above, just wall. No reason to put here a curtain unless you want to film hostages and deliver movies. And I will show you more evidence. In this, to look at.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in like several middle I think in several Middle Eastern countries it is popular to hang curtains on walls as like as a form of tapestry on walls. Apparently in Israel they just have never heard of tapestry before. Yeah, apparently a motherfucker can't have curtains anymore. You can't even have curtains in Gaza anymore without being accused of a fucking terrorist operation. It's wild. Only evil people have decor. I guess so. I guess that's really what it is. That's where we are now. On top of that, which is like super weird. One thing that's happened, and you guys might not have seen this, but it's so interesting and I need to show you it. One thing that happened recently, the ADL's director, Jonathan Greenblatt, more like green butt. Oh my gosh, got him. Jonathan Greenblatt. Okay. So one thing that we've been talking about is how the ADL, some I don't even want to say Jewish organizations, some other pro-Israel organizations have been working tirelessly to be able to regain the narrative around Israel being able to level Gaza as much as they want. With this being said, and with them losing, especially when it comes to young people, and we have some proof on this, The Hill came out with a poll recently. Sympathy for Israel plunges among young voters. Sympathy among U.S. voters for Israel in this war with the militant group Hamas has plunged among young voters, with more than half now expressing more sympathy for Palestinians, according to a new Quinnipiac poll, which is a big problem for them because Quinnipiac's a good pollster. They're not a bad pollster. They're actually one of the gold standard when it comes to pollsters, up there with like New York Times Siena, and that one like Iowa poll for only Iowa. Just gold standard when it comes to polls. Some of the best in the country. Among voters 18 to 34, a majority, 52%, say their sympathies are more with Palestinians, while 29% say with Israelis. This is something, and here's something that you need to understand, which is why they're so scared about this, because this is the first time in human history that a group of Americans that are polled, like a seriously large group of Americans that are polled, have claimed that they have more sympathy for Palestinians than they do for Israelis. This is something that just does not happen. It's never happened before, actually. But this is something different. In a new digital age where you can see things that are happening, where people are more critical of large governments, people are seeing children just get blown up in their homes and having to dig themselves out of rubble, and they see a lot of the Israelis just doing perfectly fine with their massive Iron Dome and geopolitical support from the largest countries in the entire world, and they're like, this just doesn't seem even, and it's not even. There's nothing good that Hamas did for the Gazan people and for Israel and for peace in the nation, honestly. But if we're just going to talk about like what's going on here, people's sympathies lie less with Hamas and more with just the human beings that are just being slaughtered in Gaza. It's just a fact that over 11,000 people have been killed. It's hard in a digital age when you can see almost every single one of them to not sympathize with that. We see them humanized. It's the first time that Palestinians, Gazans, and in some places, honestly, in America, for a long time, Muslims in general have been humanized as people and not simply just America's enemy. And that's a really big thing. Among Democrats, a plurality, 41% say their sympathies lie more with Palestinians, with 34% say it lies more with Israelis. And in October, nearly half of Democrats, 48%, said the Israelis, and 2% said the Palestinians. It's almost completely flipped. And this is starting to get a lot of people who are incredibly dogmatically pro-Israel scared, because they realize that they've lost hold of the propaganda apparatus that they've had a grip on in America for a really long time. And so this has the ADL's chief, Jonathan Greenblatt, scrambling to figure out a way to censor young Americans from being able to speak on the issue and talk to other people about their ideas of what Israel is doing, America's involvement in it, and other countries and world leaders around the globe's involvement in the killing of Palestinians. And so he's taken the propaganda war away from traditional means into a more underhanded method of trying to get those type of people banned on places like TikTok. And here's something that I wanted to check out, because this is something that leaked recently. This is Jonathan Greenblatt's conversation that was held in private to other people about the loss of support among Gen Z voters and what that means. A leaked phone conversation between the ADL director and an unknown party made social media rounds on Tuesday, offering a rare glimpse into the top concerns of Jewish power figures. In the video, Greenblatt can be heard raising concerns over Gen Z and TikTok for a terrifying lack of support for the state of Israel. Let's take a look at this.
But I also want to point out that we have a major massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast. Because again, like, we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, and the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying.
He's talking to me. He's talking about me. Apparently, I'm a useful idiot in the left to Iran and Hamas's aims of, I don't know, because my aims are personally just stopping Palestinians from being murdered. I don't know what his aims are. Maybe it's the entire, maybe he has his own like pro-Israeli from the river to the sea type thing that he's going to be talking about. But there's something that we're going to be talking about here in a bit when it comes to TikTok and propaganda, because this is really important. But yeah, they've lost this war. And TikTok is super interesting because TikTok has the lowest age range of users of all the large social media platforms. Lower than YouTube, lower than Tumblr and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, lower than all of them. It's the lowest age. There are babies on TikTok, okay? Like literally and metaphorically. There are babies on TikTok. It's kind of wild. Everybody is on TikTok. I don't use TikTok really, but my girlfriend does, and her friends do, and some of my friends do. And a lot of those people that they know do. A lot of people use that, and a lot of people are seeing things that you don't see as often on social media. They're seeing opinions that they don't see as much on mainstream media, because Gen Z is more likely to be left-wing, and mainstream media, more established media, is more likely to be moderate or just straight up conservative. In some cases, way more than just conservative. We're going to talk about some more alt-right media that's out there. My little sister uses TikTok. Yeah. And so you're able to see a lot of these people talk about things in a way that you don't get on those other platforms. That we've been showing that, as some reporters have looked at, the content that has been produced on these platforms during the war has been overwhelmingly pro-Palestinian, with only a very small minority. I think it was around 17% being pro-Israeli. And that's something incredibly interesting, because this wouldn't be anywhere near the same thing if we were still in the age of traditional established media, newspapers, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. You wouldn't see this type of stuff. Not saying that there aren't pro-Palestinian voices. There definitely are, especially on MSNBC these days. But a lot of these types of people are being sidelined. They have to worry about what they say specifically. And you get a lot of people online that can just speak from the heart. I'm not saying that this is always good. A lot of the times, actually, it's very bad. And I have some really big criticisms of independent media. It's a little too independent from facts and a little too dependent on sensationalism when it comes to their audiences, and how it's way easier to play into what your audience wants and the sensationality of the type of stories that you make and how big you can drum it up for more views and clicks, as opposed to you providing something factual. But also, bias is a part of everything that we do, and established media bias is usually more moderate or conservative for you to get into these areas. A lot of left-wing people don't participate in a lot of these areas, and when they do, sometimes they get shut down, and because they don't fit the culture of environment, the environment of the culture that they're in when it comes to these media organizations. A lot of the time, it just doesn't work that way. But things are kind of changing. It's very interesting, and it's going to be really important for schools and other organizations and other people to be able to wade through a lot of this, because even though there's a lot of like pro-Palestinian content, there's a lot of lies. If you guys notice, I don't talk about the war as much on the channel as like a lot of other people have, a lot of other content creators have. One of the main reasons is because it's really hard to be able to get credible evidence for what's going on out there, and it's really hard to be able to get things that I feel comfortable talking to you guys about, because there's just so much stuff. Every single day there's hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of videos posted about this stuff. Some of it from this war, some of it from yesterday, another day, a completely different war. I've seen people post stuff from Syria and Yemen and Afghanistan and Iraq that they claim to be from this war. I've seen people post fucking video game content like Arma that they claim to be a part of this war, from a similar war between the Gazan people in Israel, but not from this outbreak of hostilities recently. It's just hard. And I can't even imagine just being some little normie scrolling through my TikTok dances and then seeing some little kid blown into fucking pieces with their body parts everywhere, like they're an action figure that can't be put back together again, with something that they're not even sure about what's necessarily going on. It's really hard to figure out what to do with that. It's really hard to figure out how to get through that. I don't know exactly
is very real.
what to tell somebody like that. It's very hard, especially when it's so emotional. It's, you know, you can get caught up in it, and then more like quicker than you know, you can be caught up in just like a straight up lie. I've been caught up in lies. You guys, and this is my job. You guys are probably being caught up in lies as well. And it may not be like the biggest lie ever, but it's definitely there, and it's definitely a problem. It's difficult. But they're going to use that, all of that, they're going to use that to try to say that we need to reach these people in TikTok and all these other organizations are doing a problem by letting people speak on this, because they're losing, not because it's a problem necessarily, but because they're losing the propaganda war.
I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked who've long been problematic, like Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish.
Problematic organizations like Students for Justice in Palestine and the Jewish Voices for Peace. Both of these organizations that the ADL is now campaigning around country to ban and get these children expelled and put them on lists to permanently be tracked, to have trucks go to their house with their names and addresses on them, to try to get tweets of them saying to free Palestinians, to try to shame them into losing their jobs, losing their scholarships, trying to lose their future. Like, all this type of stuff. It's very scary. It's very, very scary. What people like Jonathan Greenblatt and his associates are trying to do to people who speak up against Israel. It's very sad. But this is what happens when large power organizations meet dispersed grassroots style ideas sprouting up between people. Right. And that's a really cool thing about democracy. That's a really cool thing about technology. It can be used for evil. And we're going to talk about that soon. But it can be used for good as well. Yeah, a lot of ideas can disseminate in a way that they just simply can't control, which is great because Israel has a lot of, you have to be careful the way you say this. Israel has a lot of institutional power in our country. And so it's very difficult to be in a lot of ways. And you've been seeing this with a lot of people who've been losing their jobs, losing their licenses, losing their teaching degrees, losing their scholarships, losing their privacy as well for speaking up and out against Israel. Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, look at those two girls who ripped down posters who had a bounty put on their head and people hunting them down to look for their homes, their address, their name, massive doxing campaigns that we would in any other situation that we would call insane, that we would call evil, that we may even call illegal, that people are just, news organizations like the New York Post are just simply running with as their top stories. While people are starving to death, while 50,000 people a year dying due to the lack of healthcare, two girls ripping down posters was the national news story, and now like the faces of anti-Semitism and evil for not liking a couple posters of hostages 3,000 miles across the sea. It's wild. Yeah.
Voices for Peace. They flipped like this and went to like Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again on October the 8th. It was that fast. Like the language in their toolkits was all about the Zionist entity and lots of other language that we recognized from Iranian propaganda.
I don't know. I don't think it being anti-Zionist is Iranian propaganda. You can call it Jewish propaganda because some of the first and most ardent anti-Zionists are Jews. But, you know, I guess we're just going to disregard that, mostly because it doesn't really matter to him. In my opinion, this is the same guy who calls protesters who want to stop blowing up children Hamas accomplices. Here's him again. This is what he actually looks like.
I am sick and tired of it. And I am disgusted.
Oh, hey, look, it's Mayor Eric Adams, the guy who said he's going to cut the education and public library and public amenities funds from New York City because there's too many dang immigrants there.
not just by the atrocities, although that's enough, but by their accomplices here in New York, marching in front of my office saying resistance. Let me tell you something, rape is not resistance.
Who said that?
Murder is not a political movement. And these people will end where evil always does, on the ashes of history.
Yeah, man, totally. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's the case. He seems very scared about how they're losing the propaganda war here. I don't think he should be scared, because I don't think anything bad is going to happen to him, because Israel losing the propaganda war just means simply that less people are going to die in the world, which I personally think is a good thing. I'm not sure if he does. Doesn't really matter to me. But what's important to understand is that things are changing in very fast and not in Israel's way, which is good for the world, in my personal opinion. Mad and scared. Bro, who said that? Damn, yo, Eric Adams behind them like, damn, I'm under investigation. Did you see how he was wearing his own hat? Just in case you didn't know who he was, he was wearing his Mayor Adams hat. You think he had that custom made, or you think somebody gifted it to him? Just gotta do that, just in case. Come here. Come here. Oh. Hi. Oh, sorry. I didn't see you there. If you're enjoying the content, hit the subscribe button. If you don't, it'll make Boo very sad. I know a bunch of you who are watching are not subscribed. Join the frenzy. You won't regret it. Thank you, Boo.